Great. Now we can move to our next step. And the next step is the controller. So for controller, I am adding one more package named controllers, okay, in which we are creating our first controller. Uh, so before moving towards control, let's understand the flow. Now a request comes into the controller and the controller received it and called the service. And service does the business logic, means validate the data, interact with the repository, and process the data. And then the service will return the DTO to controller. Then controller returns the DTO as JSON to the client. So this is called the control service repository pattern. And it's the standard way to structure Spring Boot. So okay. Now we have to create two controllers. The first controller is for handling the authentication, such as register and login. And the second controller is for the profile controller, in which user will control like get profile, update profile, related more functions. Okay, so first we will first we will do code for the auth controller. So as we have mentioned in the repository that it is a repository, as we have mentioned it is a repository. Here we have mentioned it is an entity. Here we have mentioned that it is a service. So likewise in controller we have to mention this is the REST controller. Now what is the REST controller? So this tells Spring Boot that this class will handle the REST API request. Whenever someone sends the HTTP request, Spring check all the classes marked with the REST controllers, and if it finds a matching URL, it executes the corresponding method. Okay. Now the response will be automatically converted into the JSON and sent back to the client. This part is all covered by the REST controller. Okay. Now what we have to do? We have to map. We have to define the URL on which HTTP URL the API will work. That's all about the REST controller. Now we have to mention one more thing, that is request mapping. So what is request mapping? So this will define the base URL for every API. So whatever the request will come, that come from the HTTP request. So here we are defining that all request will come to this URL. This is our base URL. So our till now our URL will look like some localhost 8080 slash API slash auth. Then only it is accessible. Okay. What is the main basic function of controller? The controller needs to call the service layer. So for calling, we require one variable. So right, let's make one variable for it. Okay. This variable name is the service. Okay. Now, what is user service will contain? For that, Spring provides us one constructor. So we can use here the constructor injection. Because Spring provides, instead of creating a user service object ourselves, we can do with the constructor injection. Like here we can declare one constructor name autocontroller user service. Okay. And this user service will contain this service. Okay. Okay, this is now we what I have do. I have written one constructor. Now this is the constructor injection. So what happens is Spring automatically gives us this service, user service object to our control by declaring this particular syntax. So now we don't want to declare any further uh, for this function that we have mentioned in our service layer. So let's back to our controller. So Spring, by declaring this type of constructor, Spring automatically provides the user service object to the auth controller. So the now the controller can use the methods without creating the separate objects for the services. Okay, now uh, for authentication, there are only two ways possible. First, register, and the second, login. So for register, what we require? Basically, for register, we are accepting some inputs from the user. That means we are using the post technique here. Now that is the post method. So we have to declare post method, post mapping. After post mapping, we have to declare one URL like a register. On this URL, the registration will be done. Okay. The return type of our function is user response. Okay. Then what is the function name? Function name register. Okay, we are passing some parameters and returning something from this. Okay, now let's see what we can pass. So now actually what happens? We are sending the request body from the front end. So front end will send the body in the JSON format. Okay, but we are managing the things in the object format. So we have to parse the JSON body into the object. So what we have to use here, the most important annotation, that is the request body. Request body. Okay. So by declaring this, now whatever the JSON we are receiving from the front end, that is converted. We can say that is parsed in the register request object format. Okay. Now it is parsed. Okay. Now uh, after the now we have received the data from the front end. Now in service we have declared one function register. Okay. So now we have to use the register function. So you could think we have to use a lot of syntax here, but not true. User service dot register and just pass the request body. That's it. That's it. So for confusion, if you are get confused this user service, I can change one small change that. Uh, okay. So user service one is created by ourselves. So this constructor is already defined in the service. When we declare at the rate service like a REST controller in the service, then it automatically creates the constructor for it. And that constructor will return you all the facility or all the functions that we have declared in that class. So it will return us the service object. So this is the service object. This will contain all the functions declared in the user service. Okay. So by this we are now able to use any function from it because From this object, we are just calling the function. That's it. So now I am removing this one again. Now I think you got most clear about this. Now, what is the next class? Next, now we have register. Now we have to write code for the login. The same code, just the one change, that is instead of register, we have to just put the login. Okay, I'm copying paste. Okay, register login and this is login and this will also end login. Okay. Now the response will be in the format of the login response procedure. So why it is showing error? Okay, here the register request, here the login request. Okay, now it is what error. So that is what our controller. We have completed the auth controller. Now let's create the another controller for a profile related APIs. So I am creating one controller. We can name that controller as profile controller. Okay, then okay, yeah, no, profile. I will change data to it. Okay, I have to create Java class. Okay, profile control. Okay, now profile controller. Same things we are repeating here. We are importing the REST controller and request mapping here also. REST controller will REST controller will be responsible for all REST API activity. Then request mapping. Now what should be the our URL? So now for profile our URL will look like API slash profile. Okay. Now similarly user service we have to create one object which will contain user service object or user service object. Okay. Now we have to create one constructor for public profile controller. Okay. So we have done with the constructor injection. So now if you are getting confused, I am here now changing service one and service. Okay, service one. So in user service, we have declared one variable, or we can say declared one object of that type, and we are creating one constructor, and user service will provide us a controller, and service will Spring Boot provide us a okay user service one. Spring Boot provides us a special facility that if we inject through the constructor injection, then all the user services we can access with constructor injection. Okay. So by this line, we have access all the file or all the function which I have declared in user service in this variable. Okay. Now in profile, what we can do is we can for just we are want to see the profile details. So for profile details, we are want to details. So we are using the method get. So for get, we have to mention get mapping. Okay. Now for get mapping, but for what? We have to mention something because if you want some profile details, but whose profile details? So for that you have to pass one user ID. I want this particular user ID profile. Okay. We are declaring one function that is user response. Okay. And the function get profile, and it will return something else. Yeah. So we are writing a function for get profile. We are writing one service that we have already declared in this user service. Okay. Get profile. Now, okay. Now this is the user ID. So we have to use this user ID in our, so now we have to use this user ID in passing to this function. So for that, here we are introducing our new animation, that path variable. Path variable. So what it do, so what it tells, so what is the path variable? So path variable tells Spring Boot that take the value from the URL and store it inside the user ID variable. So path variable will say take the value of user ID. So this will tell Spring Boot that take the user ID from the URL and use it. Okay. So now we have already complete our service. So we have to return user service one dot. What is our function name? That is a get profile in which we are passing our user ID. Okay, then. So here we are getting one error. That error is about annotation are not allowed here. Why? Mm, okay, yeah, this is the error. We have given semicolon. Semicolon is not allowed here. Okay, yeah. So now we have done with it. So what we have to till now, we have completed the controllers, we have completed the DTOs, we have completed model, we have completed the repository, we have completed the services. So that's all. So before moving on, let's make sure your project is run. I am now restarting the project. I am stopping the project, and I am again running the project. So while running the project, go in the TradeX application and run, press on run. Now this will run our project. Okay. So I think there is no issue. Okay, done. So one more thing I will do here in our terminal. What we have to is we have searching for the values from the users table. So now it is saying that it is the empty set. Okay. Now, so first our table is empty. So what we want to do is we have to just register as a user. Okay. So this is so for this now I am opening the Postman. So make sure that you have the Postman or any other API testing tool. Opening the Postman. So now what we have to do? We have to get one request, and in that request we have to select the post. Why post? Because whenever we want to register, we have used the post. Okay. So now in the post, what we have passed the register request. So register request in detail, we can see in which format it is. So register request contain full name, email, password, and mobile. Okay. So we have to pass these things. Okay. We are opening the Postman. Now in post, now make sure our whenever you are running your Spring Boot project, it always runs on 80804 port. Okay. So now what we have set our base URL as a API slash what we want to do, we have to now auth control. Okay. We have to register, so we have to use AUCH. Okay. So we have to use auth. Okay. Then okay. Now we have to send body. Body means we have to send the JSON format. So okay. So we are sending to this authentication layer, but for what? We want for a register. Okay. So we have to mention here register. Okay. Now let's see whether it works or not. We have sent the request and it says 200. Okay. That means it is working properly. We have to check whether it is really updated in our database or not. So for that, we are moving to our terminal. So in this terminal, now we can check select start from user, and here we get the details of our project. Okay, here we have received that particular entry that we have entered through our Postman. Okay, now we can also check the profile API. Now the ID is one. Okay, wait, is it working or not? So for get request, we have to go on the this URL. Okay, we have on the profile, and the ID of our is one. Okay, ID is one, and the method is get. Okay, we have it, and we have successfully got the result. Now we have to check the post. We have to check for the login method. So for login, what we required is we required the email and password. So you can see here the email is and the password is. So we have to set these things, and after setting we have to choose JSON, and let's try. If we have this field a null, then if we send what is said internal server. So what it says, if we put a password as a null, then what is says that runtime exception invalid email or password. Okay. And now if we enter the password wrong, then it will also say invalid email or password. Okay. Now we are entering the password and email correct. Okay. Login successful. Here the message has been written. Okay. So it is working. So congratulations. You have built your first complete Spring Boot REST API. So till now, what can you do? You can create a user request which who can register, login, and page the profile. Along the way, you have learned how controllers, services, repositories, and DTOs, entities, and JPA work together. In the next part, we will make this project production ready by adding password encryption, JWT authentication, and validation, and exception handling, and much more. So, thank you for watching the videos. And if you like the videos, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.